Welcome to January Donovan Show. I am the founder of the Women's School, where we do practical life training and how to be a woman for such a time where women have no access to practical life training and we are suffering for it. So, today we're going to talk about 10 reasons why women should learn how to cook. I want to sell you on the importance of owning your own health and learning how to cook, and also giving you tips on where you should begin, or if maybe you're really a great cook, but seeing the layers of depth of opportunity and meaning in cooking, in breaking bread together, in nurturing other people. So let's dive right in. If you like this kind of training, please subscribe to us, click on the link below, and also share this training if you think it serves other women out there. I just think that women today have no access to training, and that's what we really want to do here, is to offer training. And if you have any additional comments, please comment below. And if you have any additional practical life training that you want, please ask us and comment below, and we will be sure to also get that to you. So here we go. Let's begin. 10 reasons why women should learn how to cook. I love this topic. So, in the last 100 years, we've had one of the biggest movements ever in history, which is the feminist movement, which they have given the Western women a level of freedom that has been unprecedented. And we have them to thank for the freedom to be able to work, to be in the marketplace, to vote, to have a voice, and really to have equal rights. And so this is not to be taken lightly, because this is a God given gift that they have fought for, and in some ways really wrestled and even died for, maybe mentally and spiritually, because of what they had to endure to actually fight for our freedom. So I just want to get that out there, is that I celebrate the battle that women had to endure to get us to this point. I do, however, think that the feminist movement, also in all the different variations, also carried with it also something that perhaps have wounded women, because no movement is perfect, and we all, I think, can learn and grow and continue to evolve as a society. And I think that there's a new woman that's rising from these ashes and saying, you know what, 100 years ago, no freedom, to now 100 years where we are present moment, to you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want, at least in the Western world. And both have shown, because we have data that tells us that women are unhappy with their lives, they're unsatisfied, their marriages are not happier, they don't like their body, they don't feel valued, they don't there's stress at work, motherhood is more chaotic. So we are seeing that this the feminist agenda is not where it ends. I think that we have to kind of see and improve and see where we could improve and build upon the freedom that we've been given. And in the women's school, we talk about interior freedom, which is a new battle for women, which is what we call this new woman who's now ushering this interior freedom, because having freedom is not the same as being free. And that's what we call interior freedom. So let's begin. When you look at the feminist movement, the foundation that I am seeing is that it's either or. It's either men rule or women rule. As opposed to this new woman that we are ushering, it's both and, that women and men can be equal, and we can respect the sacredness of both the feminine and the masculine without taking away from them. It's not either or. And we are seeing that it's like, no, women cannot be in the kitchen because they need to be in the work. Well, we can also be at work and own our kitchen. We just need to learn how. And that's a lot of the practical life training that I think is necessary, because a lot of this either or thinking, if you think about, don't own your kitchen, don't go back in there, and it's trickled down into decades of saying that women need to be in the workforce, that they need to make sure that they don't go back into this old way of being a woman, where they're stuck in the kitchen. Well, that has led to poor health. Women are not cooking, they are eating fast food, they're not healthier mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's not just even their physical health, because our physical health impacts our mental health, and vice versa. What we teach in the women's school is that our health is integrated. Our thoughts impact our emotion impacts our physiology, and physiology impacts our spiritual receptivity. And so it's actually integrated. So when we are not eating healthy because we have been conditioned to believe that, learning how to cook or learning how to own our kitchen and be masterful at our ability to manage our home is somehow seen as sort of old school, well, it has had repercussions, from poor health to poor relationship to an unfulfilled woman. Now, what we want to introduce is you can absolutely be so driven and pursue your unique and irreplaceable call in this world. I am a mom of 8, and I'm building a business, and I am in pursuit of my big and bold and brave dreams. It's not one or the other. It's both and. But simultaneously, we have to make a point that I have to make a point that it doesn't matter how successful it is and how achieved multiple businesses if I don't feel like I'm cooking healthy and nourishing food in my home. I feel like I'm just doing a drive-by cooking, or that I haven't made our home life sacred, or my kids don't like the food that I eat, or my husband doesn't want to go home to sort of this nurturing food environment that he feels like he can come home to. Now, do we need to? No. But do we? Should we? Would it make and rebuild the culture of our own home? I would presume yes, right? And I'm going to talk to and sell you on it. So the idea is that yes, pursue your dreams and also make a good meal and make it really good that all your children want to come home, your husband want to come home. And on top of that, make a meal that owns your health and takes responsibility of your own health. Because when we resist cooking, the idea that what gets wired into our brain is this old, the feminist thought to this new woman is that, there's a propaganda of scarcity. What we want to introduce is the new woman is there's an abundance. It's both and that you can absolutely own your kitchen and live a life of meaning and contribution and fulfill your dreams. You just need to maybe learn how to manage help, have really disciplined routines, and learn how to build a business if you need extra money or a side hustle. All that is obviously something that we need to be trained for. We're not born knowing how to do that. The old mentality is that I'm just not a good cook. Well, nobody is born a good cook. We have to learn how to cook. It used to be that we lived right next to our mothers and grandmothers, where by osmosis, we were able to harvest from them by simply being next to them. But the infrastructure has changed. The World Wide Web, as we know it, is now distracting our attention. So even if we're sitting next to our grandmother or mother, we're not paying attention to what they're doing and how they're cooking this great yummy pasta that is handed down for generation. But even then, we're not seeing our families like we used to. We're a lot further apart physically. And so we're not there in the flesh physically to actually osmosisly harvest. Oh, that's how you cut ginger. Oh, that's how you do it faster. Or that's how you clean the kitchen. Or that's how you make a really good hearty meal. So what we need to do is say, well, just because I don't know how to cook, that doesn't mean I can't train to be a cook, right? You don't have to be a chef, or this is not about being an Olympic gold medalist, chef. It's just knowing how enough to take care of your family, right? It's like knowing how to work out. You're not, training for the triathlon. It's just maybe learning how to go for a walk or going for a run. It's basic. And that's what we want to introduce here, is that we ought to understand and also be masterful in some of the basic things that I think nurture our home and our hearts and our relationship. Number three, I work too much, no time to think about it. Well, we have to prioritize our life and learn how to prioritize. And if we do work and there's seasons in our life where there's a lot more demands, then we say, well, it's still a priority for me to actually create a healthy diet and to create the sacredness around meal times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strategize and say I'm going to then, instead of buying a nice purse or instead of buying fancy things, I'm going to put that into help and make sure that I am included in the meal plan of my family and that I can be in the conversation of whoever is taking care of the meal. You don't have to be the one cooking. You should know, you should have an arsenal of things to cook when you can cook. But if you are in a season of high demand, then perhaps it's not, then you can leverage, right? Which requires you to have time management, mind management, and also management skills, period, which is a training in itself. That cooking is not important. We've been sold a lie that cooking is not important. Health, a lot, health is an epidemic right now. Obesity, is an epidemic, and children are not healthier, and there's a rise of diabetes. Yes, it is so important for us to cook and to know what we're eating, because if we don't know what we're eating, then we are a victim and susceptible to all the toxicity that's out there. It's too hard. Anything is hard before it's easy, right? Running is hard before you learn actually how to develop the stamina. It's like you can't just go for the 30K before you maybe go for the 5K. So that's just about, skilling up, right? Most of us have not been trained on how to be a woman, or some of the most basic foundation skills to actually take care of every arena of our life, our life, right? And there's skills that are crucial, that are foundational to how we show up as a woman. And so that's why we need a training school on how to be a woman. It's really just all about skilling up. Now, in the corner there, you'll see a brain. And the reason why I put this picture on that, because learning how to build a skill, or learning how to rewire an old thought to a new thought, or replacing an old belief like I'm not just a good cook to, I can master 10 recipes, is literally like learning a language in our brain. It's neurologically rewiring our brain from an old thought pattern to a new thought pattern. And it really actually looks like a wire zapping together and fusing together. And as you continue to replace that old thought through a process of repetition called neuroplasticity, then what you're doing is that you're creating a new way of thinking that produces a new way of being. So it's actually an intentional act of changing the way you think about cooking, about anything really in life. And this is the same process that a lot of people who have heart attack or stroke, that maybe are paralyzed and they start to kind of learn to talk again. What they're doing is that they're rewiring their brain again. And that's what we're doing here is if I can sell you in the belief and the importance of cooking, then you can walk through the rewire process that we teach in the New Woman Masterclass, that you can change old beliefs that no longer served you, that perhaps to be healthier, you can shift your belief. Okay. Because it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, teacher, doctor, single woman, guess what? You need to eat. And to eat healthy is crucial for yourself, but also to manage your home. Because I'll tell you, eating healthy, you could eliminate temper tantrums, anxiety, and stress, and also just sick kids. And that changes the quality of your home life if you have healthier children. If you know how to cook and you know how to study ingredients, then it's not that you're healthy as well, that you can be more productive as a teacher, as a doctor, as a single woman out there, but you're also then generationally teaching your children to take care of their own health. Now, this was something I didn't learn growing up. I'd had to unlearn old habits, relearn new habits, and train myself to study eating habits that I just had to undo so many mental, I would say, limiting beliefs I had. I remember I always said, I love rice. There's no way I'm giving up rice. Now, rice might not be bad for you, but for somebody who's pre-diabetic like me, rice just didn't work for my sugar. It would always give me brain fog. But actually, I realized that some of the rice that I was eating had in itself arsenic. And a lot of people, maybe you don't do your research for some of the rice that's in your grocery store just because it's always changing. But I had to because I was getting all these brain fog and vertigo, but it came from really my junky rice that I was eating. So, anyways, you would not know that unless you understood how to cook, how to study ingredients and really pay attention to your health, but also to your family's health. And everybody's happier when everybody's healthy. But there's no training on actually how to own your kitchen. And it's not this idea of you are lesser of a woman, that, men didn't cook, so therefore you don't. No, no, no. We've got to change the narrative, right? Because a lot of the lack of training of our, kitchen and owning our health is causing a lot of unnecessary suffering for women, whether their children are suffering because they're not healthy or they're suffering because they are in brain fog or constantly tired. That was the biggest clue that I had, that I did not have a good eating habit because I was always tired. I remember my husband would always say, you got in the car when we were first dating and you would just always fall asleep. Well, I fell asleep because I was eating junk food and my body was reacting. And I would have not known that had I not started studying the impact of food in my body. But nobody taught me that. I learned it later in life and I suffered for a good part of my single years just not knowing. So my goal here is to outsell you on your excuses of why you should not be masterful at your kitchen, or maybe masterful at 10, 15 recipes that you have under your belt, and that is it, and own how you prep your meal, cook, and then clean. Make it so seamless and pretty easy. And that's really how I'm giving you 10 reasons why women need to cook. So I'm going to go through here fast. Number one, you are healthier. You understand cause and effect. You can take an ingredient and you can control it and say, you know what, this is actually not healthy for me, or I'm actually sensitive to X, Y, and Z. You're not a victim of whatever fast food that you're eating that's toxic, because you know what, I'm not going to go there. I can cook at home. It's faster, it's easier, and you don't have to be a victim to this diet lifestyle because you know how to cook. You are not a victim of fear and feeling insecure that you don't know how to take care of yourself. You are healthier when you know what you're eating and what's inside your food, and you can control what is inside your food and not be a victim of a lot of the toxic agenda from the food industry. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of misinformation. There's not, they don't always have our best interests. Like ingredients, I just learned today, you can eliminate a lot of the toxic ingredients if you just look at one ingredient in the grocery store, and that's called natural flavors, which I think is so deceptive because natural flavors is actually peppered in a lot of toxic toxic chemicals, but somehow we've had a food industry that's allowed the word natural flavors deceptively. That's actually not so natural. So, anyways, I didn't know that and I suffered for it. It might not affect you, but that's the point is that every woman is affected differently. The point is that you study what affects you, cause and effect, because you can, because you're studying out your food, you're looking at it, you're studying the ingredients, and you understand, oh, you know what, I'm actually sensitive to this. And you're taking ownership on your own health. You're not saying, well, I'm just tired all the time, or I'm just not healthy, or I'm just always runny. I remember, as somebody, my mom used to always say, you always get a runny nose. Well, I had no idea that I was sensitive to certain food. And so I just always believed all my life that I was just always had was sickly. My mom said, you're just sickly and you had a runny nose. My diet was so poor. I had no idea. Obesity is on the rise. So if you're not paying attention to the food that you're eating, maybe you're fine, but maybe your children could be susceptible because I feel like our food industry is getting worse and worse. The pharmaceutical industry influences our doctors, and our doctors are influenced also by pharmaceutical industry. I just think it's so fascinating to me that doctors, if you go look at it, maybe they've changed it, they could have changed it yesterday, but from my recent study is that they are not obligated to take health class. But simultaneously, the health class they could be taking is also kind of also skewed by a pharmaceutical company that maybe doesn't always have our best interest. Now, I'm not clocking them as a whole organization, but there has been plenty of evidence to actually be skeptical of what they're doing to the food industry and the kinds of food that they're putting in. And so you can do your own homework. There's a lot of documentary. Food Inc. was something that awakened me many, many moons ago. So understand that even our doctors, they're good, but maybe they're also not equipped properly on integrated health. And we are seeing a rise of natural health doctors because I think we're repelling from this idea that, we have to, everybody's sick. Our baseline is that we're just sick, and food is fuel, and food should be like medicine, the way we should treat it. And I am also not anti-medicine because I think it's saving so many lives, but it shouldn't replace our need to actually be healthy. And I think that there is a lot of collusion right now that's happening. You can do your own homework. It's not a conspiracy. Just do your own research, and and you can make your own judgment. But I think it's important that we do our own research before we make our own judgment, because there is a lot of cynical agenda in there. And I think in the last 3 years, we've been awakened to that cynical agenda. And sometimes it's hard to swallow. Sometimes I go, why somebody could be this deceptive? And I have no answers, but it is what it is. And I think that you can only control you, right? And I think compounding that is that there is a changing and evolving information out there, right? Information, but also misinformation. Like, we didn't know that sugar was bad, or the kind of sugar that perhaps was used, 50 years ago, maybe not quite as toxic now. Maybe the preservatives that were used before, and we're evolving, right? It used to be that Maslow's law was sort of the basic, but we know now that maybe it doesn't work for certain people. Actually, I just learned in a study that Maslow's hierarchy was actually influenced by a study that was from the pharmaceutical industry that was actually not um it was not there was no proof of the study. So anyways, you can do your own research. I'm not saying that, what I'm telling you here, do your own homework. I do my own homework. And what I'm saying is that there's so much misinformation out there, but the point is that it's evolving, right? I just heard the other day Tylenol is no longer healthy. And you're like, oh, with 8 children, it's like, you know, how would I have known that, right? Unless you're keeping up with all the health news, because there's so much information, but also overload of information. It's hard to keep up. Number two, it is cheaper. Yes, you do save money, and you can see that logically, right? If you budget yourself and you know what your groceries, instead of grocery budget for the week, you planned out your menu instead of going drive by eating, but also drive by fast food. You're not a victim to frozen food that's not healthy. You can plan your meal, and I'll show you what we do in the new one masterclass. You can do it so quickly. It doesn't have to be this ordeal. It's not this like crazy ordeal. As long as you have some of the most basic foundation of cooking, it is going to be cheaper. Yes, it's going to save you time, and people probably need a little bit more selling on this. How is it going to save you time? Because if you cook and you do leftovers, and if you cook and prep your meal, three of the meat that you marinate, you can have it for, all 3 days out of week, it actually does save you time than having to go order and having to save, the time driving there. And it takes away sort of this idea of stress of cooking. When you know how to cook, you don't have to feel like this is such a burden to try to figure out what do I cook today? What do I feed my family? And for some women, it's become so stressful. Why is it stressful? Well, because there's no training on how to prep our meal, how to cook our meal. So a lot of us are just trying to figure it out as we go. And that's why it burdens us and it becomes kind of a place of overwhelm because not only are we taking care of our meal. Now we have to take care of our children. We have to work, now husband. I mean, all these, I would say, convergence of life becomes an overwhelm when we don't have the skill of cooking, which is what I'm trying to sell you on, is that it's not hard to learn how to cook. And cooking some of the most basic foundation is really key to your overall optimal mental, emotional, and physical health. So, I actually make a broth, and I saw that the Philippines make a broth and they make it super easy. It takes about an hour. And I remember looking at some of these like training how to make a broth, and it was like 12 hours. If you have 12 hours, great. But if you don't, go for the 1 hour. It's still a healthier option than having to, buy fast food out there. So there's so much information right now for a healthier option that I never had, 10 years ago when I started my health journey. And I'm still going because you never arrive, you only evolve. That's what we teach in the New Woman Masterclass in the Women's School. All right. Number 4, you can nurture yourself. If you're sick, you know what? I'm sick. It's time for me to do a quick broth. I just have to have some ginger. I make a ginger when I'm sick. And you don't have to be a victim to toxic food when you're sick. And here's the thing, a lot of women, including myself, didn't know that when you're sick, this is pause and recalibrating what you're actually eating, because you could eat something and actually it makes you worse. Like if you maybe have a runny nose and you're drinking milk because you think it's healthy, or you just didn't know that maybe the cream in your food or the natural flavors that you're adding is actually lowering down your immune system, even though it seems healthier. So it's important that you can then heal yourself, because inevitably we are going to get sick. So the idea is that you can treat yourself with greater reverence, because you can make food that not only tastes good for you, comfort you mentally, there's comfort food that I like, chili, but that you can heal yourself and not have to feel like, oh, I'm putting junk food in my body when I know I shouldn't. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, this is something that is just saddens me, because so many women become a victim of it. But when you're runny and your immune system is low, it's a signal to change your diet. It's something that just needs to be recalibrated. Maybe you get more sleep, or maybe drink more water, but it means that your body is reacting and you need to then identify how to solve that. Okay. Number 5, it's a way to nurture your man. I just love this. Ryan, I have help at home because obviously I work, I run a company. We didn't have help till about 4. I had 4 kids, but he really loves it when I cook. I've had to learn to cook. I've had to. My mother didn't really cook much growing up, so I didn't learn so much. I studied my father, but then I studied also other women afterwards, and I wanted to make that part of my skill set. And so, it's great because he knows. He's like, I just love your cooking. It makes him feel special. And it's not even that, like, when I cook, I also want to plate his food for him, because those little things do matter and makes him feel special. So there's, who doesn't want a woman that can cook, right? There's sort of even a sense of like, I want to go home to your cooking, honey. And there's a sense of sort of pride from a man that says, oh, my wife's cooking is the best. I mean, it's a way to be like, I feel nurtured. I feel cared for. My stomach is cared for, and you're the mom of my children. And, you can tell the kids like, mom's cooking is so good. Why would you want to go to fast food? And that's what my husband says, and it's just a skill. It's not like I'm a chef. I'm just saying that and I'll show you exactly what you can do to actually learn how to cook. You can cook his favorite food, and it's not so nice to cook his favorite food when he's not feeling well. And you can be such this high caliber woman right now simply because you can cook, because most of us are undertrained when it comes to cooking, and a lot of it because we have no kitchen skills. And it's not just about cooking food, it's about cleaning and prepping, which goes into the whole package of learning how to cook. It's not just the cooking, because most women don't like to cook because it's a mountain of work afterwards, right? So cook your favorite meal, because when you do, you actually feel secure and more confident as well. You don't feel insecure when, women who feel insecure because they can't cook and they feel like they can't give to their man. Number 6, nurture your children. Remember, you want your children to say, I just want to come home to my mom's cooking. That was something that was so important to me, because I remember I would hear, my friends would say that, like, I just want to go home to my mom's cooking. And I just thought, wow, like what a great thing to want to go home to your mom's cooking. It makes, it makes your home life, it elevates your home life. There's a sense of sort of sacredness that you can instill in your mealtime because the food is good. This one girl in my home that came over, and she was a friend of my one of my daughters, and she's like, I wish my mom learned how to cook. I keep telling her she needs to learn to cook because really that's the reason why I don't want to go home and eat because her food is just not good. She was really innocent, and it was a conversation over her. There were younger girls, and it was so innocent. She was probably 8 years old, but it did, kind of remind me that we want we want our mothers to cook us good food. And I have a 16-year-old son. I'm always like, honey, can I cook you anything that you love? And it's interesting because I have help. And so, I don't do it all. I can't do it all, nor do I claim to. And so if he wants eggs, that's, I have help. My help, I call her Yaya, make some eggs. And then on the side, he's like, Mom, can you just make it? Because you make it differently. Those things matter. Those are the things that they remember. It brings your children together. It brings your children to you. You can model for them with a sense of nurture because when you know how to cook, what you're modeling for them is the ability to also nurture their family someday. You're saying this is how you do it. It's an artistry. And you raise a standard of morality in our own home to say, you know what? Dinner is sacred. Mom made a big meal. Dad's going to say that we've got a big meal. And that then becomes your sense of belonging, which then raising resilient children. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's really so beautiful and profound. The idea that even just learning how to cook could be the, one area where you could strengthen your child's resilience from a world that's gone so immoral and crazy. I love this. I do this. I win my children's friends through cooking. I want to feed them good food because I want them to feel loved at home. I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel nourished. And then I have good conversation with them. And then I win them over and I can influence them to say, listen, let's make sure we make wholesome choices, right? Because they love coming to Mrs. Donovan's home and cooking. That's what we want. Then you can bring in the conversation and then you can kind of create the connection just because they will remember it's like, oh, I love going there because it's just good food. It's memorable. Now, part of this is learning how to budget because you want to have extra. I always have 3 or 4 kids extra most nights in my house. I try to really keep it sacred. Some nights we know it's no family dinner, but we do live in a town where there's children and we make it an effort to just make dinner sacred as much as we can because there's a lot of activities. But I think it's really important to win our children's friends. Number 8 is you become more confident when you know how to cook because confidence in a woman's school comes from competence, right? You become a confident speaker because you're competent, you know how to speak. You become a confident writer because you know how to be competent in writing. It's the same thing. You grow in confidence as a woman if you know how to take care of yourself physically. You become more confident because I know how to cook. I know how to take care of my home. I know how to nurture my children. I know how to take care of my husband's needs. Some of those simple basic things, are so crucial and also has become almost a rarity in our, Gen Z culture. And we think of our grandmothers as somebody who can able to cook, but why is it just our grandmothers? We all need to be nourished in every season of our life. And so I think the idea of learning how to cook, helps us to build that confidence that nobody can take away from us, right? Then you can whip out a meal in your pantry and put them all together because you've got some of the most basic things, not, Olympic style cooking, but you're like, I can just put together something, right? You don't have to be a victim of the fact that you have to go to the fast food or you feel a victim like you're just not this good cook or I'm just not really a good cook. Well, 15 recipes is sufficient. That's all you need. And I think this might be the last. You can be a great role model. This model of a new woman that is moving towards, this feminist movement that we've gone to continue to grow and say, you know what, I want to model competence. I can own my health. I am not a victim. I can cook and achieve great and beautiful things. It's both and that greatness can be both outside and inside my home. It begins with me being a competent woman, that I have the capacity to make the ordinary extraordinary, that I also can lead by example for my children. And yes, we should be successful in all things and fulfill our potential, but we also cannot negate our priority to nurture the people that we love, including ourselves, because we need to learn to love ourselves. And I think that's what cooking does. It teaches us to love ourselves to a point where we treat our body with such reverence that we are putting good things in our body. And lastly, we can rebuild culture just by cooking. Think about it. Feast, coming together, bringing together. I love cooking. I love to cook for a lot of people. It's some of the things that I love being a Filipino, but that's how we build culture. By breaking bread together, by coming in together, what we can build conversation. We can replace this toxic femininity idea where, we reject things that nurture men or family life or motherhood, because it's a lot of some of those toxic ideologies that come from, the radical feminists, is that, we reject motherhood. Well, we know now that to reject part of who we are doesn't fulfill us women. And so we've learned from it. What we want to do is to embrace it, but train for it, right? That we are here to be fully woman, fully alive in who we are, also nurturing our culture, nurturing men, nurturing family, nurturing our friends. I mean, imagine you bring an awesome meal at work, or imagine you're a boss and you serve and cook a whole entire delicious meal for your staff. How would they remember you? How would they even want to work, for you, and even love you even more and love the work and go above and beyond? Simply because you have nurtured them in the, simplest details in life that you think is not a big deal, but it is. It is in the ordinary life that we make it extraordinary. That is a superpower and a secret. It's not a secret superpower as women. That is the art of being a woman, the mastery of who we can be, so that every part of us then becomes an active contribution to society. Isn't that a way of just living a life of true fulfillment, that we train ourselves to be an active contribution, that we die to ourselves, that we learn how to cook, not so that we can have everybody say, oh, look, you're a great cook. No, because so we can serve. And when we serve, we feel fulfilled. But you don't do it to compromise also your need to be served. This is why women need training. This is why we need to receive. This is why we need to design a life that is whole. And this is what, we teach in the Women's School Masterclass, because if you're giving, 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 and you're not nurturing and receiving, then it's only a matter of time until you start to feel resentful and angry at men and blaming other people. This is why a life of wholeness is the antidote to the resentment, the frustration, and the anxiety and overwhelm that so many women are running into today. And that's what we teach in the New Woman Masterclass. So how do you learn to cook? Really quickly, I do practical life training on this in our New Woman Masterclass. If you're interested, go to the newwomanmasterclass.com and join our really movement of this new woman that's forming and leading the charge in rebuilding culture. So how do we cook? I do practical life and how to cook. I let you in my kitchen. All right. So um, learn simple ingredients. Learn the basic of saute, of steaming, of broth. Just simple ingredients. Know the materials in the kitchen. We don't need a ton of things. And when we, uh, have our wedding register, we over register because we don't know some of the most basic things. Register for some of those basic things. Learn some of the most basic skill sets, such as chopping, putting away, organization. These are some very basic practical skills. You don't need to have it perfected. You just need to know some of the most foundation things, that things are in order, that this is how you chop and this is how you chop efficiently. You can learn this. You can time yourself. You can study materials. You can create simple ingredients so you can piece them all together, right? The most important part about cooking is really learning how to cook. This is one of the roadblocks of cooking, is that we don't know how to clean our kitchen efficiently. We don't know how to put things away. We've never been trained to do that. In my own house, I always say everything has a parking place and you put things right away. And yes, am I training it? Do they do it all the time? No, it's a work in progress. But the idea is that we rewire our brain to learn how to create a simple system in cleaning the kitchen so that cooking isn't overwhelming. That in itself is a training. And then learn recipes, 15 recipes. If you want to go above and beyond, 15 recipes. You can do 3 for breakfast. You can do, 10 for dinner and 4 for lunch, right? So like my breakfast every week is the same. Our menu, it's like I have eggs 3 times a week. I have 1 pancake and 1 oatmeal. We have 1 treat day and then 1 kind of like, well, whatever is sort of left over there, even for breakfast. And then lunch, you could have a staple lunch. You could have a tuna. You could have, a salad. You can have ground beef. My children always have sort of ground beef. And then dinner, that's where you can get a little bit creative and learn your 10 recipes. Nothing hard. I don't do anything complicated. Most of my meal, I do literally under 20 minutes. I'm a mom of 8. I have help, but my children actually like it when I do the cooking. So I'll have my help prep the meal, but I actually do the cooking or the marinating, just because they like it. Is it all the time? No, there's seasons that I just can't. A time if I'm writing a book or a training, I can't. But for the most part, I want to make that part of my own home. And I'm modeling that for my children, that you do the best that you can. Sometimes you just need help, right? And it depends. And you could be a stay-at-home mom and you're capable of doing it, or you're able to, maybe hire for help. It's not about, oh, she can do it, look what she can't do it. It's, we're so quick to judge. It's about figuring out your strategy for this unique season of your life, and it's not about comparing or, criticizing how other women doing. It's harvesting and growing from them. And that's the new woman that we need to reintroduce, because we're done and tired of this comparison, competition, toxicity. We're done. We're ready for this new kind of woman who knows how to cook, who learns from other women, who takes responsibility, and she just masters a few things in the kitchen and she's not afraid of it, right? So here's the thing: commit for 2 months of learning how to cook. If you think this is a roadblock for you, just commit 2 months, learn your breakfast, lunch, and dinner recipe. I used to watch YouTube channel. I still do, actually. I still take the time to watch certain recipes, but because I have the basic, I can take a look at it for 3 minutes and just kind of fast forward some of it. I'm like, oh, I got it. And then I can tweak it, right? And here's the thing: commit time and effort, but also be willing to fail. I teach my daughters to cook, and even my son, they always say, well, it doesn't taste like the way you do it. Well, it doesn't always look like the way you want it the first, 10 times, right? The cake that you think you want to bake doesn't look like what is on YouTube the first 10 times. And that's why we have to be willing to fail. We understand that this is a journey and a process, but the discipline that is actually so crucial when we're training our children how to cook is also part of their competency skills and builds the right kind of confidence. So if this is serving you and you're interested in practical life training and how to be a woman, join our new woman masterclass. You can subscribe to our channel. I do additional training here, but I do greater practical life training in our masterclass. So join me and really join the movement where we are learning to introduce this new woman that's going to take responsibility for her interior freedom, who's going to say, you know what? I've learned from the past, I'm learning from the present, and I'm ready to be that new kind of woman that the world needs now. Thank you very much. My name is January Donovan, founder of the Women's School, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here and train you.